In the skeletal remains of Khartoum, silence is the most haunting presence. It lingers in the air, heavy and oppressive, settling over the city like a shroud. The once bustling streets, filled with laughter and life, are now eerily quiet, as if the city itself is holding its breath, waiting for a peace that never comes. This silence is broken only by the distant thunder of artillery and the relentless whine of drones circling overhead. Each explosion sends tremors through the empty neighborhoods, a grim reminder that the war is never far away. The sounds of conflict echo through the ruins, a constant backdrop to daily survival. Once grand buildings, symbols of Khartoum's rich history and culture, are now hollowed shells, their facades scarred by bullets and fire. Streets that once bustled with markets and music are deserted, save for stray dogs and the ghosts of memories that linger in the dust. The city's heart has been ripped out, leaving only fragments of what once was. Among the ruins, Amina, a former university lecturer, scavenges daily for food and water. Her life, once filled with purpose and hope, has been reduced to a struggle for survival. Each day is a test of endurance, as she navigates the shattered streets in search of the bare necessities, her dignity and dreams battered by the relentless conflict. Amina's story is echoed by millions across Sudan, families torn apart, children forced to flee, and entire communities uprooted. Their suffering is immense, yet their voices are drowned out by the world's indifference. The humanitarian crisis grows, but the world's attention remains elsewhere, leaving these people to endure unimaginable hardship in silence. The war has not just destroyed buildings, it has dismantled trust, fractured communities, and extinguished hope. Children play among the ruins, their laughter tinged with sadness, while adults gather in broken streets, trying to hold on to the remnants of their former lives. The bonds that once held neighborhoods together have been shattered, replaced by fear and uncertainty. For Sudan's people, the silence of the world is a weapon, deepening their sense of abandonment as their pleas echo into a void. In the ruins of Khartoum, hope flickers faintly, but the silence remains, a constant reminder that their suffering is unseen, their voices unheard, and their future uncertain. Sudan's current conflict can be traced back to a fragile alliance between two powerful men, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of the Sudanese armed forces, and his one-time ally, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemedti. Together, they once stood at the helm of Sudan's transitional government, promising a path to democracy after decades of authoritarian rule. But beneath the surface, their partnership was always uneasy, marked by deep mistrust and competing ambitions for power. Hemedti, who commanded the notorious Rapid Support Forces, brought his own formidable influence, rooted in years of militia warfare and control over lucrative resources. In April 2023, their uneasy alliance shattered in a dramatic power struggle. What began as a political dispute quickly spiraled out of control, plunging Sudan into a brutal civil war that engulfed the capital, Khartoum, and spread rapidly across the country. The RSF, drawing on its origins in the feared Janjaweed militias, launched lightning assaults on key cities, capturing territory with alarming speed and leaving civilians caught in the chaos. Meanwhile, the Sudanese armed forces responded with overwhelming force, unleashing airstrikes and heavy artillery on urban neighborhoods, turning once bustling streets into battlefields and reducing entire districts to rubble. What started as a contest for political control has now become a humanitarian disaster on a massive scale. Millions have been forced to flee their homes, seeking safety in overcrowded camps or across borders, while hospitals struggle to treat the wounded and families are torn apart by violence. In 2025, Hemedti escalated the crisis by declaring a rival government, formalizing the country's split and fueling fears that Sudan may never be whole again. The political divide has deepened, and hopes for peace seem more distant than ever. Today, Sudan's war is not just a struggle for power. It is a fight for the nation's very survival. With millions trapped in the crossfire, the future of Sudan hangs in the balance. And the world watches as a once promising partnership has given way to devastation and despair. Sudan now faces the world's largest displacement crisis. Over 14 million people uprooted, with 3 million fleeing to neighboring countries. Death tolls are staggering, with estimates of 150,000 killed, not counting those lost to starvation and disease. Famine has returned. 18 million face acute hunger, and over 635,000 are in catastrophic conditions. Food is weaponized, and families survive on animal feed or leaves. 7 million children are out of school, their futures stolen by war. The health system has collapsed. 80% of hospitals in conflict zones are gone. Cholera outbreaks and malnutrition haunt a generation as Sudan's crisis deepens by the day. Behind every number is a story of loss, a life forever changed by violence, displacement, and fear. These statistics, often cited in news reports and humanitarian briefings, represent real people whose worlds have been shattered. Each figure hides a family torn apart, a home reduced to rubble, and dreams that may never be realized. The pain and resilience behind these numbers are often invisible, but they are deeply felt by those who endure them. Fatima fled Darfur with her children, surviving atrocities, and now stranded in a refugee camp, her old life erased. She once had a home, a community, and a sense of belonging. Now every day is a struggle for safety and dignity. The memories of what she lost haunt her, but she clings to hope for her children's future, even as uncertainty surrounds them. Ahmed, once a proud farmer, lost his crops and dignity, now dependent on sporadic aid in a crowded shelter. He remembers the fertile fields he once tended, the harvests that fed his family and neighbors. Now, he waits in long lines for food, struggling with the loss of purpose and the weight of providing for his loved ones in a world turned upside down. Layla, a nurse, watched her hospital fall apart, forced to abandon patients as shells fell. She dedicated her life to healing others, but now she faces the agony of being unable to help those in need. The trauma of leaving behind the wounded and sick lingers, a constant reminder of the chaos that has overtaken her calling. Omar, just 12, dreams of school, but spends his days fetching water and dodging recruitment by armed groups. His childhood has been stolen by conflict, replaced by responsibilities and dangers no child should face. Yet, in the midst of hardship, he holds on to the hope of learning and building a better future, even as the world around him crumbles. These stories repeat across Sudan, where war has stolen homes, futures, and hope. Entire communities have been uprooted, forced to flee with little more than the clothes on their backs. The scars of conflict are etched into the landscape and the hearts of those who survive, shaping a generation marked by loss and resilience. The erasure of a generation's potential will haunt Sudan long after the guns fall silent. The dreams of children, the ambitions of youth, and the wisdom of elders have all been disrupted. Rebuilding lives and restoring hope will take years, but the world must not forget the human cost behind the statistics. Sudan's war is fueled by foreign interests as much as local rivalries, creating a complex and deadly situation. The UAE arms the RSF in exchange for gold, fueling the conflict further, while Russia's Wagner Group seeks mineral wealth and a strategic Red Sea base, sending mercenaries to bolster Hemedti's forces. Egypt and Iran back the SAF with military support, turning Sudan into a proxy battleground for their interests. Western sanctions and UN resolutions have failed to halt the flow of weapons and money into the region. Competing foreign agendas make peace elusive and difficult to achieve, trapping Sudan in endless conflict and suffering. For Sudan's people, their homeland has become a prize in a deadly geopolitical game with no end in sight. Why the silence? Sudan's suffering is deemed containable, lacking oil, lacking strategic urgency for the West. The world has shown it can act decisively elsewhere, but for Sudan, the response is muted and fragmented. Media coverage is scarce, making the war an abstraction, statistics, not stories. This neglect is both a moral and strategic failure, as the conflict spills into neighboring countries and empowers malign actors. Ignoring Sudan is not avoiding a problem. It is nurturing a larger crisis that will demand a higher price later. The silence is not just neglect, it is complicity. The world's indifference is a slow-motion catastrophe. The world cannot look away any longer. Silence emboldens warlords, condemns millions to starvation, and erases a generation's future. Breaking the silence means real action, confronting those fueling the war, enforcing meaningful sanctions, and demanding accountability. Humanitarian aid must be fully funded and allowed to reach all in need. This is a matter of life and death. Justice must be swift and comprehensive, not decades late. The resilience of Sudan's people is remarkable. They have not given up on themselves. The world must not give up on them. We must listen, amplify their stories, and finally, act.